So we're going to be looking at steps in conducting research. So these steps I highlighted just to help and guide us in understanding how to conduct a research. So you need not necessarily follow these steps when writing your research paper, right? When I mean follow it, the same way I arrange it here, right? You could understand the concept. So, sometimes some people want to conduct the second one in my slide here. Some people might want to conduct the first one first. So either of them. So the arrangement does not really matter. Now, the first step highlighted in my slide here is identify the research focus and research topic. Right, to help us understand this, right, I'll be citing two examples, one for transportation, another one for health. That's because the audience in this class are majorly from transportation and health. Right. But we can apply it on our various fields. We can apply these same concepts to our various fields. And so we're going to be looking at some research focus and research topics around transportation and health. So those will be my examples as we go on. Now, for the first point I highlighted, identify the research focus and topic. Before starting a research paper, we need to define the clear research question. Clear, streamlined, narrowed down question to what you actually want to study. Now, let's say, for example, in transportation, someone want to say, or perhaps someone want to find answers. Just like I explained what research does, find answers and arrive at a conclusion, right? Someone might be curious to want to know, right? How does research sharing services affect traffic congestion in Lagos? That seems so broad, right? Now let's see how we can narrow it down. Don't forget, we're looking at identify the research focus. Let's see how we can narrow it down. We can narrow it down to answering these kind of questions now. Does ride sharing reduce or increase congestion? Or does it affect specific areas or times of the day or more? Times of the day more, sorry. Now, a better way to construct that would be, there's a question, is does the use of ride sharing services reduce traffic congestion in Lagos during peak hours? Now, so I'm not just being generic to look at several hours of the day, right? I'm being specific now to peak hours. Those peak hours could be in the morning, right, when people are going to work, or perhaps in the evening by 4 p.m. when people are returning from work. So this will just help my research be more focused, right, and objective oriented. Not me just being so broad and yet I'm not able to capture the essence of my research. Knowing fully that at this point now I'm referring to an independent researcher. Let's say if it's a corporate researcher where they have a lot of people involved in the research process. That study can fly, where we can say that we want to study or want to find answers to how do ride sharing services affect traffic congestion in Lagos. It could work because they have a lot of hands involved. But if you're an independent researcher, there's a need to narrow down your research, right, to ensure that is something that you can actually carry out within the time frame the supervisor is providing to you. Now the next step now, or let me give an example in the health sector. Now, if we are studying air pollution and asthma, we can refine the question to like from how does air pollution affect health? That is looking so broad, right? So what is the link between air pollution levels and asthma hospitalization in children under 10? You see it, I'm trying to narrow down the research. I'm not just saying to everybody, I not leave it too vague, so my study is not captured. My study is going to capture everybody, right? No, but I'm trying to narrow it down to what is the link between air pollution levels and asthma hospitalizations in children under 10. We could make it uh, from in teenager and adolescents. Those things are just helping to narrow down my research, right? To be able to solve the problem I have in mind. Because if I actually want to leave it vague like that, I will have to involve more and more samples, and so my research can be valid and have concrete results. So if I'm an independent researcher, there's a wisdom to approach research, and that is ensuring that you narrow down your research. Because by making our research questions specific and measurable, we set the stage for a meaningful study. We help our research to be more meaningful rather than highlight so broad. The end point is that you're providing answers, not to make yourself the boss of research as people want to tag themselves. Now the next one I'm going to be seeing is conduct a literature review. Now this literature review is for the most part divided into 2 or 3. We'll have to talk about the conceptual review, the empirical review, and then the theoretical review. Right. The conceptual review has to do with concepts around the research topic. So let's say I'm checking on. Let me go back to the last research question I just formulated. What is the link between air pollution levels and asthma hospitalization in children under 10? So of course I'm saying some topics there. We have air pollution levels, we have asthma, we have hospitalizations. So those are various concepts I might want to talk about, in my conceptual review. So you just bring them to concepts. Now, the next one is the empirical review. That's empirical review. It just helps us to look at what people have studied in the past. Now, if you have checked other journals, you'll see where they wrote things like, let me use my name, Savystat et al. That et al. Means I'm not a single researcher. I'm not an independent researcher. Their research was conducted not just by only me, but other researchers. So you can see Savystat et al. Studied the impact of air pollution, right, on asthma hospitalization in children under 10 years of age. So what I just did now is that if I'm reading a journal and I saw something like that, I know that is an empirical review and it's helping me to see what has been done in the past. And this is necessary for things like research gaps. How I identify research gaps. That research gaps is to help us know what I've been studying in the past, right? So that I need not necessarily study that same part, but then build on it. And so maybe if someone have done under 10 years, okay, I might be like, okay, what about the teenagers, right? What about the adults? What about aged parents? So those are other studies I might want to conduct based on as if I thought I studied this. What about me trying to do this in other specified group of people, right? I could specify my own to just males or female, right? I could specify to a particular, state, particular community, alright. That is just it. So literature review is just we checking out studies that already exist, right? So before we carry out our study, it's best that we actually check out what has been done in the past. So that's what we do in literature review. So let's say for example now for the transportation, we will just look at past research on how ride sharing impacts traffic in other cities. Let's say in Ogun State, in Kwara, in Abuja. So we'll just see things like, are there policies those people have implemented as actually impacted on the traffic in that area? Say for the health, now we can say we could check medical studies on pollution and asthma, right, to see if or to see them answer questions like, do higher pollution levels lead to more hospital visits? No. Have similar studies been done in other polluted cities? This will just help us, right? To avoid reinventing the wheel and identify gaps where our research can add value. Don't forget, research is not just gathering information. I'm repeating that. We're actually providing a new insight, right? Providing new insights. So that's why it's good to check literature review. Just help us understand what has been done in time past, right? How can I implement my own now? Implement that same study to my own and then improve on it to see today that I am adding value, I'm contributing to knowledge. Don't get it all twisted up. Sometimes we could actually carry out a study that has been done before, right? But then with a different approach. That if you are certain that the methodology the person adopted was a first one, or maybe it's not accurate, it's not so awesome, so then we can now conduct our own literature review. Our own study using a different methodology. Now, the next one is research ethics and IRB approval. Now, this is very necessary. So long as we are dealing with human beings, we must be ethical in our approach. We must ensure that their data, right, is private. You are not sharing the data with any other body or third party. So that's why we have IRB. This IRB, the full meaning is Institutional Review Board. Right, they just help to ensure that the research that you are actually carrying out is ethical, such that, let's say for example, if you are doing a study, just like I explained, we're going to be using transportation and health. If you're interviewing Uber and Bolt drivers, because those are the ride-sharing drivers we have, and we have other ones too, in Drive. Now, if we're interviewing Uber and Bolt drivers about their experience with traffic, we must protect their privacy and get their informed consent. So we shouldn't just put a tracker on their vehicle. The book can be so funny, and they'll put a tracker on someone's vehicle and then just collecting the person data without the consent of the person. That is too far. It's extreme, right? So if you are presenting that as a way of collecting data to the IRB, that's institutional, right, review board, they can kick down against that research because it's not ethical. You are breaching someone else's privacy. Now, same with health. If you are using hospital data, we need to get permission to access patient record. We don't just go into the hospital and steal people's record and run away. That is not ethical. Right? In short, you can be sued. If someone finds out his data is online, a lot of people are going through stuff now. Imagine you're trying to, the information about people's health status is being leaked. The HIV status, the asthma status, it can cause a lot of damage and harm to the patient. And it can be sued. It have a lot of legal consequence. So that's why you must ensure that your research is ethical. So that's why you have to go for ethical trainings, right? Go for ethical trainings on the study you're about to conduct. Institutional review board is to provide that, just to help you, since we are dealing with human beings. Now, the next one is to identify. The next one is to Now, the next one is to identify appropriate research methods. Now comes the big question: how do we collect our data? So, in these research methods here, we have to do with data collections, right? How do we collect our data? Are we doing qualitative method or quantitative methods? Those are the two research methods or mixed methods we have under research methods. We have qualitative, we have quantitative, and we have mixed method. This we're going to discuss this further, right? But we have to establish the facts. Now, because if you are going through quantitative methods, we have to do with surveys, right? using GPS tracker. That if you want to go back to the transportation, you have health tracker, those watch to track people's stuff. But if you are doing qualitative, we have to talk about surveys and I say surveys, sorry, interviews. Those are qualitative methods of collecting data. Now, let's say for example, now I want to focus on transportation. We could analyze traffic data from Lagos before and after ride sharing, using survey, observational methods. There are times where we were doing a practical under queuing theory in my class then, and then we were asked to go and observe, we're going to observe, how what we did there was, I think I'm trying to remember. What we did there was, we went to a park, and then we were observing how cars were leaving, and coming, how people are actually, leaving how students are actually coming in to enter the cab. It was interesting one. But what we did, that was just observation. So we're just taking note of, how many cars are leaving in 5 minutes time, 10 minutes time, 20 minutes time. We just did that for a research work on a practical under King theory then. So it's quite interesting. But that method was observation. That's an observation method of collecting data. It's quite stressful and tedious. Quite stressful and tedious. So we could also use GPS tracking. But that's, like I said, you have to inform them that you want to use that. You want to track them. You want to track the Uber and the boat drivers with their GPS tracker. You don't just go and put your track on their vehicles without their consent. That would be unethical. Even when I were even asked to go to the park to observe how vehicles are coming and going out from the park, I actually had to seek for consent from the owners of that park. So in health, of course, we want to collect data from them. You have to go to the doctor, the officer in charge of it, and request. For the most part, you have to collect the data from your school, and then you write your own letter, attach it, and then you wait for the approval. So that's how it's done. So if you are giving the data, so in Nigeria, I have to thank God, because I know when I was looking for health data around systolic and diastolic blood pressure of patients, it was a difficult part for us. They were not so lenient to release the data, so I had to go and source it myself by carrying out the experiment myself with the help of a doctor. So the way we did it, we just entered the church, and we seek for the consent of the members, that is on the approval of the pastor, that want to check their BP using a blood pressure checking device, and that was how I got the data. So most of the time, especially Nigerians, to access data is actually hard. So, but it's possible. So the next one we're going to see is data analysis. On this data analysis, we might not really talk much, because data analysis, we have to treat it as a topic in itself. So there are a lot of analysis that can be done. We have the chi-square test, t-test, the ANOVA, the regression. And regression has different types. So based on the kind of data you are collecting, we can now determine the kind of analysis that can be run. If your research involves qualitative analysis, then we have to talk about thematic analysis. That is to analyze themes from the interviews conducted. Now the last one is conclusion and presentation of findings. Very important because, like I said, there's no research if you have not arrived at a conclusion and they present your findings. Presentation of findings will involve the recommendations aspect of it, which is very important, because how else do we want stakeholders to act on our decisions? So this is all, right, in steps of conducting research.